Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana. 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 Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakaचार्य Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charanarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityalila Pravishtam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakaचार्य Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Brajbhumi Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Purushottam Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Dwarika Dham Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Shyama Sundari Lalita Devi Vishakha Devi Ki Jai. Shri Shri Krishna Balarama Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Pramanandi Hari Hari Om. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 81, called The Lord Blesses Sudama Brahman. This is text number 40. Please repeat. Evam sa vipro bhagavat-suhṛt tadā. dṛṣṭvā sva-bhṛtyair ajitam parājitam. tad-dhāna-vegodgrathitātma-bandhanas. tad-dhyāma lebhe cirataḥ satāṁ gatim. evaṁ sa vipro bhagavat-suhṛt tadā. dṛṣṭvā sva-bhṛtyair ajitam parājitam. tad-dhāna-vegodgrathitātma-bandhanas. tad-dhāma lebhe cirataḥ satāṁ gatim. Please chant. evaṁ sa vipro bhagavat-suhṛt tadā. dṛṣṭvā sva-bhṛtyair ajitam parājitam. tad-dhāma-vegodgrathitātma-bandhanas. tad-dhāma lebhe cirataḥ satāṁ gatim. evam sa vipro bhagavat-suhṛt tadā dṛṣṭvā sva-bhṛtyair ajitam parājitam tad-dhyāna-vegodgrathitātma-bandhanas. Ladies, evam sa vipro bhagavat-suhṛt tadā dṛṣṭvā sva-bhṛtyair ajitam parājitam. पतितं parājitam tad-dhyāna-vegodgrathitātma-bandhanas tad-dhāma lebhe cirataḥ satāṁ gatim evam. Thus, saha he vipraḥ, the brāhmaṇa, bhagavat, of the Supreme Lord, suhṛt, the friend, tadā, then, dṛṣṭvā, seen, sva, his own, bhṛtyaiḥ, by the servants, ajitam, unconquerable, parājitam, conquered, tad, upon him, dhyāna, of his meditation, vega, by the momentum, udgrathita, untied, ātma, of the self, bandhana, his bondage, tad, his, dhāma, abode, lebhe, he attained, ajitaṁ, in a short time, satāṁ, of great saints, gatim, the destination. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Thus, seeing how the unconquerable Supreme Lord is nonetheless conquered by His own servants, the Lord's dear Brahman friend felt the remaining knots of material attachment within his heart being cut by the force of his constant meditation on the Lord. In a short time, he attained Lord Kṛṣṇa's supreme abode, the destination of great saints. Please repeat. Thus seeing how the unconquerable Supreme Lord is nonetheless conquered by his own servants. The Lord's dear Brahman friend felt the remaining knots of material attachment within his heart being cut by the force of his constant meditation on the Lord. In a short time, he attained Lord Kṛṣṇa's abode, the destination of great saints. Purport. Sudama's earthly fortune has been described, and now Shukadeva Goswami describes the treasure the Brahman enjoyed in the next world. Sri Jiva Goswami mentions that Sudama's last trace of illusion lay in the subtle pride of being a renounced Brahman. This trace was also destroyed by his contemplating the Supreme Lord's submission to his devotees. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Thank you so much for this opportunity to say a few words about this pastime of Sudama Brahman, which we are coming to the conclusion of this Leela. This is the penultimate verse in the 2 chapters that describe this particular Leela. And so I want to take a minute to reflect upon the different stages, the different phases of this particular Leela. So we can look back at what we've covered and how that is relevant to our own practice of Krishna consciousness. You see, Sudama's pastime is it's introduced in a very special way. Often in Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami will tell us a Leela because Parikshit Maharaj has inquired about that particular Leela or some detail. So Shukadeva Goswami will be describing some other pastime. In the process of that description, he'll mention, and then when Krishna did this, and so on, and he'll continue. And Parikshit Maharaj will catch that, and he says, wait, you mentioned that Krishna did this? What was that? Can you tell me more about it? Often the Leela is driven by Maharaj Parikshit's own inquisitiveness for more detail. This particular pastime, however, begins in an interesting way because Maharaj Parikshit's question at the beginning is very general. He says, I just can't get enough of hearing about Krishna's pastimes. This is chapter number 81, right? So for 81 chapters, he's been describing Krishna Leela. Actually, it begins even at the end of Canto 9. He's been describing Krishna Leela. And at this point, he doesn't have a specific question about Sudama. He just says, I want to know more. Tell me some other Leela. Shukadeva Goswami, he just starts by selecting a pastime from his own heart, from his own memory, from his own knowledge, right? He says, Krishna syasid sakha. There was once sakha vipra. There was once a Brahman friend of Krishna. This is the beginning of every good story in Sanskrit, is the word asit. There was once. Just like in English, we begin once upon a time, right? If you start with once upon a time, then people know something good is coming. So similarly, throughout Sanskrit literature, even Mahabharata, when the story of Nala and Damayanti is told, then it begins, Asit Raja Nalo Nama. There was once a king named Nala. So Shukadeva Goswami just begins this story from his own heart. He says, Krishna Sit Sakha Vipra. There was once a Brahman friend of Krishna's. So the story must be very dear to Shukadeva Goswami. It must be very dear to his heart for him to select this particular pastime from all the others. Right? Krishna's pastimes are unlimited in nature. And Shukadeva Goswami's appreciation and relish of Krishna's pastimes is unlimited. For he is actually Shuka. He is a parrot in Vrindavan. So he could have chosen any pastime from Krishna. But when given a blank slate, when given an open offer, tell me something about Krishna, this is the Leela that he chose. So if we think back about this particular pastime, we find that there are 4 stages to Sudama Brahman's life and 4 different phases to his relationship with Krishna, to his spiritual development. Today we have encountered the 4th, But let me go back so we can reflect on the different phases of this particular pastime. First, the phase is service to the spiritual master. When this particular pastime is told of Kṛṣṇa and Sudama in his childhood, then Kṛṣṇa is actually retelling this story to Sudama, right? This is a recollection of what was happening. Just like when friends get together, they remember their early childhood days, their young days. So Kṛṣṇa is reminiscing with Sudama. And Kṛṣṇa makes it a point to highlight the most important lesson from this early phase of their life. He says, there is no greater service to me than service to the master. Service to the Guru's wishes. We did this in such a dedicated way. And to illustrate that, he tells this story of how once they went to the forest to collect firewood, they got stuck in an unseasonal storm. This was in the winter time. Even though it wasn't the monsoons, there wasn't supposed to be major storms, and yet they were caught. And so they spent all night in the forest, afraid and cold and wet in the rain. And specifically, it's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes that not only did they stay in the forest, but they never gave up, even in all that rain and the flooding. It says there was so much flooding, they couldn't tell high or low. What is the difference? It's a very dangerous situation for anyone who's been through a flood. That's one of the biggest dangers, is you don't know what you're stepping into. So that was the situation they were in the forest. And of course there's wild animals and snakes come out in the rains and so many things happen. And yet it says that they never let go of the bundle of firewood that they were carrying. Right? Meaning, the service to the spiritual master was first in their mind, even in the moment of great danger. So, Kṛṣṇa tells this story. And when Sudama reflects upon this story, after Kṛṣṇa's telling, now Sudama's also grown up, he says, what can I say? I was so fulfilled and happy at that time. Every desire of mine was fulfilled. I was with you, Kṛṣṇa. I felt so close to you. They were holding hands as they went through the forest. Especially in danger, they became closer. So perhaps we also remember in our own practice of Kṛṣṇa consciousness, perhaps we're going through it now, but in the early phases of our practice, how fulfilled, how confident, and how close to Kṛṣṇa we feel. When we begin practicing Kṛṣṇa consciousness, and our whole life is about service to the spiritual master, we give up everything. Sometimes this occurs because people join the ashram, they join the temple, they preach full time, they serve Srila Prabhupada and their spiritual master. Other times it can happen in the context of grihastha life, but there's this intensity of practice that happens in the beginning. Sometimes we make fun of this as pure devotee syndrome, right? Why? Because a person feels that just tomorrow I'm going to become a pure devotee, right? I've progressed so much, and really we have. In the beginning we make such rapid progress, and we feel like just, today first initiation, next year Brahman initiation, third year I'm going to take sannyas, and then fourth year back to Godhead, right? It's just like you feel like this is like there's nothing better than this. And we feel very close to Kṛṣṇa. People describe experiences of crying as they chant in the early years. They describe experiences of crying as they read Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? All of this experience of Kṛṣṇa is real. It's just a whiff at this stage. It's just a whiff. And in that mood of complete service to the spiritual master and dedication, we taste something of Kṛṣṇa consciousness that then we hanker for the rest of our lives. We see this in the story of Narada Muni in Srimad Bhagavatam. When he tells his own story to Srila Vyasadeva, he says, I went to the forest, I gave up everything. I saw Kṛṣṇa within the core of my heart through meditation. And I felt a happiness and ecstasy that I had never felt in my life before. And yet, Kṛṣṇa shows himself, and just as quickly, he disappears. And when Narada Muni wants to see him again, Kṛṣṇa says, not again, not in this life. In your next, you will get to see me. Now, that sense of absence, of loss, of where did it go, that ecstasy, this is the next phase that we see. The thing is, this particular phase can be very challenging in the life of a devotee, because the taste, the ecstasy, the closeness to Kṛṣṇa that we felt in the beginning may suddenly disappear. We may not feel it in the same way. We know Kṛṣṇa's there. Our faith has grown stronger, no doubt. But there's also a lot of struggle at this point. So we see that Sudama Brahmana, in his next phase in the story is not told in order in Bhagavatam because it's in memory, right? But in the next phase, Sudama really struggles. Bhagavatam describes that Sudama's struggle is so great that it comes to a point where there is not enough food for even just the two of them to eat, him and his wife. It is only because there's actually no food on the table that Sudama Vipra's chaste and devoted wife takes the risk of asking him to ask Kṛṣṇa for something. The Acharyas describe, Bhagavatam actually says, the verse itself says that she approached him with great fear, meaning she knew that this was a red line that her husband did not want to cross. Otherwise, why would he have suffered all these years if he was ready to ask Kṛṣṇa? And yet things became so desperate, not for herself, the Acharyas say, because she was concerned that she could not even feed her husband. How can I do my seva if there is nothing there? Right? If the fridge is empty, what am I going to do? And in that moment of desperation, she approaches her husband and says, please. And she even puts it very wisely. She says, Kṛṣṇa is, he'll give even himself to that devotee who remembers him. Giving you a little bit of opulence is nothing for him. It's not a big deal. And in the process, you'll also get his darshan. You'll get pure devotional service. So what you're after, you will also get. Right? So she actually is very intelligent. She's got it all figured out. And she's saying, look, I'm not asking you to do something against your principles. You just go see Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa will give this very easily. It's an afterthought for him. And in the process, you will get the pure bhakti that you've desired forever. So we can just imagine then at this point how difficult the situation must be for Sudama. Bhagavatam again and again describes his emaciated state. The veins in his body were showing. So thin he was from lack of eating. His clothing was so ragged that the residents of Dwaraka looked at him and said, who is this unkempt Brahman? Means even the poorest person would put on some decent clothes to come and see the king. And yet he didn't have any to offer. This particular period in our practice of Krishna consciousness is very difficult because Kṛṣṇa can put us through all kinds of tests in our service to him. He demands more and more. More and more what? More and more renunciation from us. More and more sacrifice in his service. And we can go through some crisis of faith. We can go through a lack of taste. We can feel, I have been chanting for so many years and yet where is it? Where's that taste I had? Where is that enthusiasm, that love, that joy that I felt when I was directly serving my spiritual master? At this point in our Krishna consciousness, our spiritual master is not there physically. Perhaps because we are distant, because of other responsibilities, or perhaps because he has left this world. But we feel that absence, we feel that lack, we feel that sense of emptiness. And it translates often to an emptiness and a longing within our own hearts. Where is Krishna? How can I find him again? That panic that Narad Muni felt in his previous life. Where is he? I want him again. Despite this struggle, despite this challenge, and despite the pain that might be there, the feeling of loss, we do not go through this period alone. The one thing that we have from phase number 1 is the blessings of the spiritual master to hold us together. You remember when Sandipani Muni found Krishna and Sudama in that condition in the forest. At that point, he blessed them. 2 blessings he gave. 1, may all your desires be fulfilled. And 2, may the meaning of the Vedic mantras never be lost to you. That second blessing is really, really thoughtful. It's really powerful if you think about it. The mantra that all of us have received is the Hare Krishna mantra. This is our mantra. This is that mantra which will take us from the very beginning of our Krishna consciousness to the highest levels of prema. And yet, at some point, we may feel like we have lost the meaning of this very mantra. We chant and we don't feel that chanting in our hearts. We don't feel the enthusiasm. We don't see the meaning that is supposed to be found. We read about it. We read the acharyas, we read their lives when we see the attachment that they have. We see it today in the lives of advanced devotees, and we may feel, where is it? How have I been cheated? But we have to remember that we have the blessings of our spiritual master. This is the blessing that Srila Prabhupada, this is the blessing that our spiritual master has given us. May the meanings of the Vedic mantras never be lost to you. All we have to do is through that struggle, through those tests, is to keep at it. If we keep at it with devotion and some renunciation, with determination and some sense of renunciation, Krishna's mercy is guaranteed to us, right? Muktipade sadaya bhak. It becomes our rightful inheritance. It becomes our claim, right? It's guaranteed to us. So the first phase is we get all the mercy, right? It's the stage of receiving from the spiritual master. We're serving, we're receiving. The second phase, now comes the time where we have to actually apply it. It's our turn to demonstrate our gratitude to the spiritual master. What can we do for him? Without his direct presence, Sandipani Muni wasn't there. Krishna was not there for Sudama face to face anymore. So it's our time to apply. Perhaps continuing as brahmacharis, perhaps moving as grihastas, whatever is our phase. Sthane sthita shrutigatam tanuvan manobi. We take that position, and with that position comes the requisite struggles of that position. Every ashram, every position has its struggles. Brahmachari, vanaprastha, sannyas, grihastha, all of them. They have their struggles. Every phase of life has its struggle. Youth does. Old age does. After Sudama spends much time like this, then Krishna gives him his mercy in an extraordinary way. When he goes to visit Krishna, then Krishna gives at this point to a devotee so much mercy that the devotee does not know what to do with it. Of course, he knows what to do with it. He engages it in Krishna's service. But it's extraordinary. It's beyond all imagination. If we go on chanting and hearing sincerely, Krishna will do miracles through us. There's no doubt. Every one of us, Krishna will do miracles. Why? Because his mercy has no limit in the life of a devotee. Prabhupada would himself reminisce, he would talk about, when he would talk about his life, right? He would talk about the struggles that he went through, going door to door, trying to sell Back to Godhead magazine in this kind of heat in Delhi. Right? The time he was gored by a bull. Then he comes to the United States. No one is there to see him off. No one is there to receive him, practically speaking. He gets robbed. His life is threatened. Right? So much happens. So much struggle is there. Prabhupada, he remembers this. And then he speaks about his current situation. He says, now we have temples all over the world. And in every temple we have at least 10 cars. We have at least this much, I forget what the number is, 1 lakh rupees or something, of daily, he says, or monthly, like this he describes. So much Krishna has given, right? Unlimited amounts of mercy. And he shows to the world through that devotee that my devotee was dedicated to me when he had nothing, and he is dedicated to me when he has everything. In both situations, my devotee is completely fixed upon me. After this, then Krishna does something extraordinary. Well, something extraordinary happens in the life of a devotee. Krishna often, we find, he has one last test. One last, not even a test. It's better to think of it as an invitation. One last pull of the devotee towards him. When Krishna takes the very service that the devotee was so attached to away from him. You see, throughout his life, a devotee practices giving everything up for the sake of service. And Krishna then at the end takes away the means for that very service from the devotee as a final opportunity for surrender. And this is what is happening to Sudama at this point. Srila Jiva Goswami is saying here, Srila Jiva Goswami mentions that Sudama's last trace of illusion lay in the subtle pride of being a renounced Brahman. Right? So he had spent his whole life being a renounced Brahman. So renounced, in fact, that he did not have enough to eat. That was his service to Krishna, that renunciation. And guess what? That service is what got him Krishna's lotus feet. Because he was a renounced Brahman. He perfectly exemplified the purity and dignity and renunciation of that position in service to the Lord. Krishna was so pleased with him, he gave him everything. And even then, Sudama displayed his opulence of renunciation. Even with everything, he was not attached. And then Krishna said, oh, this very service, any little piece of pride or attachment that you might have as a result of that service, I'm going to take it away also. I'm going to pull it away from you. The finest example of this in Srimad Bhagavatam, the most famous, is that of Bali Maharaj. We don't have time to tell the whole story, but when Vamandev comes to Bali Maharaj And he says, I want 3 steps of land from you. Bali Maharaj first thought is, I come from a family of great charitable kings. Virochan, Prahlad Maharaj, right? These are people who gave up everything for the sake of charity. And now the Supreme Lord is asking me for 3 paces of land during a yajna when I'm supposed to give charity. Let me do my duty. And Shukracharya comes and tells him, you will be in a problem if you do this. This is not a good idea. This is the Lord himself and he will take away everything. And Bali Maharaj's response is, so what? This is my duty. This is my seva to the Lord. If God himself has to come and ask me for something, what could be better than that? Right? That's the perfection of giving charity. We give charity to so many people. Then Krishna's coming and asking me for charity? I will keep this seva intact. I will do it to the best of my ability. So Krishna takes 3 big steps, and that takes away everything from him. He takes 2 steps and takes away everything from him. And then what does Krishna do at that point? He turns around and accuses Bali Maharaj of what? Of not being faithful to his word of giving charity. Can you imagine? He could have accused Bali Maharaj of so many things. He could have said, you're a sense gratifier, you're a king, you're the enemy of Indra, you're like this, you're like that. He could have said many things. But Krishna chose to humiliate him in the very thing that was his primary service to the Lord. To take away any last vestige of ownership or pride that we might have. I am a pious Brahman. I am a great singer. That's my seva for the Lord. I am greatly charitable. That is what I do for Krishna. One after another in Bali Maharaj's story, everyone comes out and criticizes Bali Maharaj and says, yes, Krishna, you did the right thing. His wife comes out and says, Krishna, he thought he had something to give. Can you imagine? When everything already belongs to you, he thought he had something to give. This is his illusion. Prahlad Maharaj comes out and he says, my dear Lord, your mercy to us asuras is like this. You take everything away from us. Thank you for doing this to my grandson. The whole reason Bali Maharaj started off doing this is because he wanted to be a worthy grandson to Prahlad Maharaj. He was aware of his family name, and yet the Lord humbles him in front of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, everyone, Lord Brahma is there, and the Lord ties him up like a thief because he says, you have taken away from me what is mine. Imagine, of all the things Krishna could have accused him of, the one thing that he was actually very, very good at, right? This was truly his best quality in service. That is the very thing Krishna took away from him. But despite this, Krishna has something even greater to offer. You see, at every stage, every phase, there is a struggle. But unlike this material world, that struggle is never an empty struggle. Krishna's always there with something yet greater than we can imagine. In the initial phase, service to the spiritual master is great struggle. We take so much austerity. In return, Krishna offers us blessings from the spiritual master that carry us through our entire lives after that. The next phase, we have to go out and apply what we have learned. Perhaps without that direct guidance, without that immediate ecstasy. But Krishna has something so much greater to offer on the other side. His protection, his mercy, which comes in limitless quantities. And then even now, Krishna challenges us so much. He takes away even that one last thing we were holding on to. And yet, what he offers us at this point is greater than we can ever imagine. This is when he offers himself entirely, fully, his own self to the devotee. This is why this verse says, sva-bhṛtyair ajitam parājitam. Or as Lord Brahma says, ajita jitopyasi taistrilokyam. That at this point now, Krishna becomes the property of the devotee. When he's taken away that last little thing, whatever there might be, maybe there is nothing, but whatever there might be, Krishna, when he takes it away, and the devotee goes through that experience, Krishna's then waiting and saying, now that you have nothing, you can have your self-dignity, your self-pride in your service. Now that you have nothing, I am yours. Take me. This is what he does with Bali Maharaj. He becomes the Lord's, he becomes Bali Maharaj's doorkeeper in the lower planetary systems. He says, I will guard you. He serves his spiritual master. Serves his devotee, rather. Right? Ajitam, parājitam. He becomes, he conquered, right? He loses this battle between Krishna and the devotee. At every stage, the devotee is out to demonstrate to Krishna, you cannot do anything that will take me away from you. And at this point, Krishna finally gives up. He says, yes, parājitam. I've lost. The Lord surrenders to the devotee. And when that happens, the devotee becomes so overwhelmed with gratitude to Krishna. The feeling of the devotee after all that has transpired, the only feeling that is left is a sense of gratitude. Krishna, how could you? How did you give me so much? How did you give me yourself? What have I done to deserve this? After the whole Bali Maharaj episode is done, Krishna has tied him up, he's pushed him down, and so on. Bali Maharaj says just one verse only at the end, after everything is done. And that verse is one of gratitude. He tells Krishna, I do not deserve all the mercy that you have given me. Imagine any other person in that position would have given up on Krishna. My Lord, who do you think you are? After everything I've done for you, this is what you give to me? And yet the nature, the quality of the devotee is such. Prabhupada actually describes this in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Bhishma Dev, departure of Bhishma Dev. He says, Krishna puts his devotees through all of this to demonstrate to the world that there is nothing in this universe that can prevent his devotee from loving him. Nothing. What the Pandavas went through, Bhishma Dev is thinking, my gosh, you did not deserve to suffer like this, he says. Krishna was your friend. And you had to go through this? Right? Krishna's standing right there, and he's saying, Krishna is your friend, and you had to go through this. You did not deserve to go through this. But in the end, from an outside perspective, it may look like, oh, Krishna's putting the devotee through so much. But from the perspective of the devotee internally, the devotee is thinking, my Lord is so amazing. He has given me himself. At that point, the closeness of the Lord with his devotee is so close that the Lord becomes a plaything in the hands of the devotee. In the Narad Muni story, At the beginning of the story, Krishna tells Narad Muni, he says, you will not be able to see me anymore in this life. You will not be able to see me. At the end of the story, Narad Muni is telling this own story to Vyasadeva. You know what Narad Muni says? He says to Vyasadeva, he says, now I can see the Lord whenever I want. Anytime, he says, any place I want to, I can see Krishna. It's not an accident that he mentions this. It means what? Ajitam, parājitam. Now, the Lord has been conquered. And so this verse says that thus seeing how the unconquerable Supreme Lord is nonetheless conquered by his own servants, the Lord's dear Brahman friend felt the remaining knots of material attachment within his heart being cut by the force of his constant meditation on Krishna. A devotee can feel this happen. We can feel that last attachment falling away and Krishna becoming ours. And when the devotee reflects on how the unconquered Lord becomes conquered by the devotee, this completely melts the heart of the devotee. It's practically too much for the devotee to handle. We see this over and over again. Queen Kunti, when she's describing her prayers, what really gets her, she says, how is it possible that you are conquered by Mother Yashoda? When fear itself is afraid of you and you're afraid of her stick. This is just too much. Her love for Krishna overflows thinking about this point. Ajitam, parājitam. If you look at Bhishma Dev in his departure, what is he overwhelmed by? Krishna's Parthasarathi. You, my Lord, become the charioteer of Arjuna? You serve him? This is too much for me to handle. If you remember the Brahman friend of Krishna, the poor Brahman in Chaitanya Lila, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes to South India, he's trying to read, he's illiterate, but he's trying to read Bhagavad Gita and he's crying. What is he crying about? How is it that the unconquered Lord becomes the servant of Arjuna? Parthasarathi. Ajitam, parājitam. How is this possible? And when we remember the story of Bali Maharaj, the same thing is there. Prahlad Maharaj's story, the same thing is there. This remembrance of how Krishna becomes conquered by his devotee. And now also, Sudama Brahman, he is remembering this one thing. How is it possible that Krishna gave himself to me? That he considered me his own friend? Just by remembrance of this affection from the Lord, any last traces of attachment, which honestly are so subtle that no one would notice except Krishna himself, any last little thing that we might be attached to, Sudama is seeing those attachments fall away, not by hard austerity, not by hard work, not by pain, no. At this point, none of that. Just, it says, by constant meditation on the Lord. Thinking about the wonderful things that Krishna has done. His heart is melted, and as it is melted, all remaining impurities are filtered out by the Lord himself. And in this way then, he, in a very short time, it says, achirataḥ, very short time. Bhavami nachirat partha, Krishna says. This doesn't take very long. It feels long to us. I'm sure for Sudama Brahman, those days after days of hunger, it was not an easy time, right? It was a struggle. But it's not a long time, honestly. It's just one lifetime. His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj used to always say, Said so many lifetimes you have spent enjoying your senses, trying to satisfy them. Give just this one life to Krishna. That's all. Just this one life. That's all he wants. Imagine, in the scope of time immemorial, of millions of lifetimes, Krishna is not asking. He said, the last 1 million lives, you have spent enjoying your senses. The next 1 million lives, they are for me. No. Krishna says, I just need one. This is why it says, ajitaṁ, very, very quickly. It was just one life, after all. What is that in the eternal scope of things? And even not one life. Just what we have left of this one life. We offer that to Krishna. And he says, tad-dhāma, lebhe. He goes to the abode of the Lord. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay. It's okay? Few questions? Okay. Any questions or comments or thoughts? Yes, Prabhu?
Thank you for the elaborate, wonderful elaboration on ajitam and rajitam.
Bhagavatam regularly, we will find Krishna providing so many of his devotee. Every psychological situation in this world, every physical situation in the world, it's there in Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, I forgot to mention even in the case of Prithu Maharaj, right? Prithu Maharaj is trying to do 100 yagyas and 99. He says, no, what's the point of getting to 100? At 99, I've given you my darshan. I'm giving you everything. So what will the 100th bring you that you don't have already? Means he's taking away the only little source of pride that may be present from the very seva that he is doing. Just like Sudama seva was the austerity as a Brahmin. So Prithu Maharaj's as a king was this yagya. So he wanted to say, I want perfection in my seva. 100. That's perfect. Krishna says, what's the point? The world will remember you as the king who only did 99. It's okay, right? So sometimes we're doing our seva and we don't quite make it. We're at 99 only. It's like, oh, I just messed up a little bit. We can remember Prithu Maharaj. We can say, it's okay. Krishna still, he'll be pleased. So whatever situation we encounter, nityam bhagavata sevaya. If we're regularly studying Srimad Bhagavatam, we're absorbing ourselves in its pages, Krishna will speak through us and help us remember him through the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Any other questions? Comments? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, here this Jiva Goswami ka quote is written. This certain pride, this is very certain. When it cannot be understood, how we can understand that I do have certain pride? Because sometimes it is very certain that I'm not able to identify that.
Yes.
I'm very much pride.
Yes.
So how to identify it, how to give it up?
Yes.
Proper understanding.
Yes. practically speaking, we cannot identify it ourselves. This is so subtle because it is produced in the practice of seva and in the practice of our sadhana. And because it happens in that context, there are also many, many rewards and reciprocations from Kṛṣṇa from that seva. He sincerely appreciates it. So he gives us everything, like he did for Sudama, right? So we feel so much reciprocation from Kṛṣṇa, and we are doing it for him with genuine motive. It is not ulterior, it's genuine. So because of that, we are practically not able to tell that it is there. But Kṛṣṇa will tell us, right? So we just have to depend upon him. That Kṛṣṇa will show us at the right moment what our next step is. What is the next thing that we need to conquer? Just like even Prithu Maharaj, he's doing this to please Lord Vishnu, right? But that one little thing is there. Kṛṣṇa comes and he says, now you must stop. Like, this is enough. Don't go beyond this, right? Sudama Brahman, he has nothing to hold back from Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa must come and he say, no, this is this last little thing you have to get over. Bali Maharaj, same thing. Kṛṣṇa appears and he says, this is this little thing. I will take care of this for you. So we have to trust Kṛṣṇa. We have to go on doing our seva and relishing that seva and taking whatever austerity is needed for that seva. But we must trust that Kṛṣṇa, at the appropriate time, he will purify us. He will show us what we need to. And our only job is that when that moment happens, we recognize it. And we say, yes, Kṛṣṇa, aap ye bhi le lo. Ye bhi aapka hai. This is also yours. You take it. Right? Today you have come. And Kṛṣṇa does this for all of us. Some he does before death, some he does at the moment of death. Right? At the time we leave our bodies, what is there we can hold on to? Any capacity we have, Kṛṣṇa takes it away at that moment. Right? Then it's all yours, Kṛṣṇa. You take this even. Take my mind, my body, my words. All of it is now gone. Because even the mind is material. Yes? Even the intelligence, buddhi, is material. You take this also. And then all that is left for the devotee is him. So we just have to trust that Kṛṣṇa will do it. And when he does it, we have to just recognize it. Ah, Kṛṣṇa. And we embrace it. We say, yes, Kṛṣṇa, I'm ready for it. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? How do we recognize it? How do we recognize that this time has arrived? Yeah. Prabhupada says, he says that no one has to tell a hungry person that they are full. We're eating, no one has to come and say, Prabhu, you're full now. It's not necessary. As soon as stomach is full, as soon as one is satisfied, we know. In the same way, when Kṛṣṇa's mercy is there to the devotee, right, then the devotee knows that yes, Kṛṣṇa's mercy is here. But Kṛṣṇa will remind us in many different ways. He will remind us through the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. He will tell us. We will read Bhagavatam and we will read the story of a great devotee and we will think, oh, this is something for me to learn here. Right? We'll recognize it in the pages of Bhagavatam. Something we may have missed completely before. This happens so often in study of Bhagavatam. You read something and you've read it many times and you missed it completely. And now it strikes you. Why? Bhagavatam has not changed. It's because we have changed. So now we're reading and we see something that we did not see earlier. Oh, I didn't realize this about Bali Maharaj. So we'll hear it through Bhagavatam. We'll hear it through the devotees. This is why it's so important to keep association of advanced devotees. And we will hear it through Kṛṣṇa within our own heart, especially through the process of japa. Right? So Kṛṣṇa will tell us, but we will know. We will know when that time is there. Okay, I think we are over time already. I want to thank you all so very much for this opportunity to do a little seva for you in Sri Vrindavan Dham. Hare Krishna.